Have you ever thought about the role consent plays in our everyday interactions? This seemingly simple word, consent, carries profound significance in our lives. From a psychological standpoint, consent refers to the voluntary agreement to participate in a particular activity, embodying the freedom of choice and respect for personal autonomy. Legally, it's the explicit permission granted for something to happen or agreement to do something, often necessitating clear, informed, and unequivocal expression. Consent is foundational to our interactions, extending beyond the personal sphere into professional settings as well. It serves as the invisible yet crucial thread that weaves the fabric of our social lives, fostering mutual respect, understanding, and trust. Whether it's engaging in a conversation, sharing personal information, or entering into a business transaction, consent forms the backbone of these activities. Decoding consent is an essential part of our social fabric, shaping our relationships and interactions. So let's delve deeper into this fascinating topic. Why does consent matter so much in our lives? It's a question that we might not ask ourselves often enough. You see, consent is more than just a word. It's a fundamental ethical principle that guides our interactions. It serves as a cornerstone in building respectful and healthy relationships, whether they're personal or professional. Consent is closely tied to trust and safety. When we give or receive consent, we are essentially saying, "I trust you to respect my boundaries and I feel safe with you." This trust, this sense of safety, can only be established when consent is clear, informed, and voluntary. Consent is about acknowledging the autonomy of others, valuing their choices, and respecting their boundaries. It's about understanding that every individual has the right to agree or disagree, to participate or withdraw. It's about communication, negotiation, and mutual respect. Consent is not just about saying yes or no, it's about fostering trust, safety, and respect. What does setting boundaries mean in the context of consent? Let's delve into that. Boundaries are like invisible lines that define your personal space both physically and emotionally. They indicate where you end and where others begin. Boundaries are crucial for maintaining individual autonomy and self-respect, and they play a significant role in the dynamics of consent. Imagine boundaries as personal property lines. They delineate the areas where you have full control and where others would need your consent to enter. Boundaries can be physical, like personal space and touch, or they can be emotional, like respect for your feelings, thoughts, and choices. So, how do you identify your boundaries? It starts with self-awareness. Reflect on your comfort levels in different situations. What makes you feel safe and respected? What makes you uncomfortable or disrespected? Your answers to these questions will help you define your boundaries. Once you've identified your boundaries, it's essential to communicate them clearly to others. Try to express your boundaries in a calm and direct way. Be assertive, but not aggressive. Remember, it's not just about saying no, it's also about saying yes to what you're comfortable with. Just as you have your boundaries, others have theirs too. Respecting others' boundaries is equally important. It involves understanding, accepting, and honoring their limits. If someone communicates a boundary to you, it's important to react with respect and understanding, even if their boundary is different from yours. Sometimes you might cross someone's boundaries unintentionally, and that's okay. No one is perfect. What matters is how you respond when someone tells you that you've crossed a line. Apologize, learn from the experience, and make sure not to repeat it. Setting and respecting boundaries can be a delicate process, but it's vital in maintaining respectful and healthy interactions. It's a cornerstone of consent, allowing each individual to feel safe and respected in their interactions with others. So remember this. Boundaries are personal. They're about protecting our space and our rights. And in the context of consent, they're about ensuring that our interactions are based on mutual respect and understanding. How can we talk about consent in different scenarios? To navigate the complexities of consent, open and clear communication is paramount. This applies in all aspects of life, be it in relationships, at work, or in medical settings. Each scenario requires a nuanced approach, but the underlying principle remains the same: respect for boundaries and autonomy. In relationships, consent is about more than just physical intimacy. It's about understanding and respecting your partner's comfort levels in various situations. It's important to adopt a tone that is non-threatening, respectful, and open. Use phrases like, "Are you comfortable with?" "Would it be okay if?" or "How do you feel about?" In the workplace, consent often revolves around personal boundaries and respect for individual autonomy. It's crucial to have clear conversations about what is acceptable behavior and what isn't. A simple, "Do you mind if I," can go a long way in establishing a culture of consent. Medical settings present unique challenges, as they often involve sensitive personal issues. Here, explicit, informed consent is essential. Medical professionals should explain procedures clearly, giving patients the opportunity to ask questions and make informed decisions. However, discussing consent isn't always easy. Fear of conflict or misunderstanding can inhibit these conversations. To overcome these challenges, it's essential to create a safe space where everyone involved feels comfortable expressing their feelings and setting their boundaries. Active listening plays a crucial role in these discussions. It's not enough to just express your own boundaries and seek consent. You must also pay attention to the other person's reactions, both verbal and nonverbal, and adjust your behavior accordingly. Mutual understanding is also key. Consent is a two-way street. It's about understanding the other person's feelings and perspectives, as well as expressing your own. This requires patience, empathy, and respect. Remember, consent isn't about winning or getting your way. It's about fostering an environment of respect and understanding, where everyone feels valued and heard. Open communication is the key to establishing and understanding consent. Is consent a one-time question? This is a common misconception we often encounter. In reality, consent is a dynamic process, an ongoing dialogue rather than a single moment of agreement. Let's look at it this way. Just because someone said yes to a request or an action once doesn't mean that yes is eternally binding. People have the right to change their minds at any point, for any reason. Consent should be reaffirmed regularly, especially in long-term relationships or ongoing activities. And this isn't just about personal relationships, it applies to professional settings too. For instance, in a work project, consent should be rechecked whenever there's a significant change in tasks or roles. Checking in and reaffirming consent is not a sign of mistrust or uncertainty. It's a practice of respect and open communication. Remember, consent is dynamic, not static. What happens when consent is violated? Picture this: a breach of trust, a sense of betrayal, a feeling of vulnerability. When consent is violated, the psychological effects can be significant. The individual may experience trauma responses such as flashbacks, nightmares, or even post-traumatic stress disorder. They may also grapple with feelings of guilt, shame, and confusion. This violation can lead to a decrease in self-esteem and an increase in anxiety and depression. It's not just the person whose consent was breached who suffers. The violator, too, may grapple with guilt, anxiety, and damaged relationships. Moreover, repeated violations can result in a chronic state of stress or fear, which can have long-term effects on mental and physical health. It's not just an immediate impact, the repercussions can ripple through a person's life, affecting their relationships, their work, and their overall well-being. Remember this: violations of consent can lead to profound psychological impacts. How does the law view consent? It's a question that underpins many aspects of our societal interactions. From a legal standpoint, consent is viewed as a clear, unambiguous, and voluntary agreement to participate in a specific activity or to allow something to happen. It's regulated by law in many contexts, such as sexual relationships and medical procedures, providing a protective framework. However, legal consent and ethical consent aren't always the same. While legal consent focuses on explicit agreement, ethical consent leans more towards understanding, respect, and ongoing communication. This is where psychology steps in, bridging the gap between the two. It provides a deeper comprehension of the nuances of consent, emphasizing that it's not just about saying yes or no, but also about understanding and respecting the boundaries, feelings, and autonomy of others. Legal perspectives on consent help us understand its implications in a broader societal context. In conclusion, understanding and practicing consent is vital for healthy interactions. We've explored its foundational role in all forms of interaction and highlighted its ethical implications. We've discussed the importance of setting boundaries, communicating about consent, and recognizing consent as a dynamic process. We've delved into the psychological and legal perspectives of consent and the profound impact its violation can have on mental health. We've also examined the importance of educating others about consent, sharing resources, and real-life case studies to further our understanding. Reflecting on our own practices, we must ask ourselves, are we clear about our boundaries? Do we actively listen and seek mutual understanding during consent discussions? Are we regularly checking in and reaffirming consent in ongoing relationships and activities? Share your thoughts or personal experiences related to consent in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more content. Together, let's foster a culture of respect and understanding.